All right, we're back. Mike, hi, nice to see you.
Good morning, Julianne. How are you?
I'm good. So, we have a really awesome special guest today on influential dental. We can't wait to introduce her. But I want to first introduce my co host, Michael Keeter, who's been in this industry for how many years?
Going on 18 now, Julianne, so it's been a hot minute.
A hot minute, yeah. And I'm Julianne O'Connor. We are thrilled to bring to our listeners Influential Dental, and we are bringing on just incredible influential dentists and other dental professionals, and just wanting to share their journeys in this space and not only how they became influential, perhaps, but also their stories, some of their struggles and things that they've overcome. So before we get started, let's give a quick round, a welcome, round of applause, whatever. Yay! Dr. Bobbi Stanley has joined us, and we are thrilled. She owns an institute. She's a business owner. She is a dentist. She is a mom, and she's amazing. So she's doing some other things I can't wait to talk about today if she's willing to open up about some of that as well. But I want to just welcome you, Dr. Bobbi. We're thrilled to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, really quickly, just so our listeners kind of know from a credibility standpoint, a little bit about you. You're part of a ton of organizations. Like if you look at your bio, if I read it, everybody would just be like, "What is going on?" So, tell us a little bit. Give us a couple of your credentials, and then let's talk about how you kind of, ended up in dentistry, and a little bit about you, just as an introduction for everyone who maybe might not know who you are.
Okay, I would love to. I've been doing dentistry for 31 years, and it's funny people ask, how did you get into dentistry? And I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare. I always knew I wanted to do medicine. And somehow I narrowed down dentistry. And 31 years later, I absolutely love it still. It's so much fun every day doing dentistry. And because dentistry is so much fun and because dentistry is evolving, then obviously you want to better yourself as much as possible. And like any other dentist, I've gone down that path. So I do have my master's with the Academy of General Dentistry. I have my diplomat with the ICOI for implants. I have my fellowship with the International Orthodontic Association. I have my fellowship with LVI out in Las Vegas. I just love being involved with so many organizations and learning and being just so intimate in dentistry.
Yeah, I love it. So, I mean, Mike, I'm not going to just talk over you the whole time. I promise. I know he's used to me just taking the mic. But I've known Dr. Bobbi for a minute now, and she is also a trainer. And so, tell us I mean, you have a training institute, and so obviously you're credentialed, and you've been doing this for a long time. You travel all over. I don't know how much you speak, but every time I look, you're somewhere else on the globe. Between you and your husband, it's like, whoa, you guys are everywhere. But with your passion in cosmetics and so many different areas of training and education, tell us a little bit about what you teach and what that looks like.
Absolutely. So not only do we love to learn, but we love to share. And because we've been doing dentistry for a long time and we've learned so much, we want to give back to the industry and share with other doctors. So we developed an institute. It's Stanley Institute for Comprehensive Dentistry. And what that means is that we want it to be a comprehensive learning institute. So we teach dental implants. I teach the business of dentistry because there's so much to be learned as a business owner that dentists miss, especially with tax deductions. I also teach 3D printing, which is the newest cutting edge of dentistry. We have a photography course that is being taught through our institute. So there's so much to learn. And we do travel international and teach dentists around the world.
Yeah, so okay, so what I mean when I think about people who have a training institute, this it has to be a passion project, right? Because it's not easy to run a training institute. And Mike, you've worked with how many training institutes over the years?
Oh gosh, probably over the years, at least 10 or so throughout the country and North or in Canada as well. And real quick, before I lose my thought, is Dr. Stanley, very nice to meet you today as well. And I've heard much about you. And what I find amazing is, like you said, the passion. I have a few questions to ask later on this podcast, but I just want to say I'm appreciative that not only are you learning yourself, but you're giving back and you're teaching the business of dentistry. What I found over the 18 years is most dentists are great clinicians, are great dentists, but not necessarily great business people. And the ones that can do both, or at least hire those to help on the business and why I practice clinically, is so important. So I'm glad you're teaching a full, comprehensive education in dentistry that includes the business side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found is that dentists as business owners work so hard in the practice, but they don't necessarily work on their practice. And if you don't work on the practice also, then you're not going to succeed as much as you can. And success means obviously that you're going to profit, but profit means that you're able to give back to your team members, you're able to give back to your patients. So we can help so many more people if we're successful in our practice.
So yeah, so let's dive into. Okay, so you're doing all these amazing things. You're an incredible human. I mean, on every level. Your training institute, packs out classes. I've heard you guys both speak. You're incredible. We're excited to have you speaking at some events that we're going to be at, participating at here in the near future. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about being a mom and some of the stuff that you've had to kind of overcome, because this is something with women in dentistry and men too, right? Any parent where they're juggling and something comes at a cost so often. So how, like, what's the secret? How do
Yes.
you do that?
So, first of all, let me just say, I think dentistry is a great career for a parent because it does give us some flexibility to be a parent and be a career person. But it's probably the number one question that I get from especially young females as to how do you do it? And literally, I open my doors to my practice, no patients, fee for service office, hoping patients would walk through the door. And I had a 17-month old, no, let me see, a 15-month old, and I was 2 months away from giving birth to my second child. So, my children have grown up in the practice, but because I love what I do, my children have seen the love for that. But I did not sacrifice family. Family always came first, still does. And my team members also, I make sure that they know family comes first, because and patients understand that. So you can do it all. You can be everything. You can be a parent. You can be a dentist. Just keeping your priorities focused.
Yeah, no, and Dr. Stanley, again, I appreciate you being on and your candidness. And I do agree with you. You can have it all in a practice. I mean, I've been into hundreds, if not thousands, of practices and seen the doctors that have control or have that relationship with their staff, but also have that vision, right, and have that drive. I think those that do have clear goals, and obviously Julian and her background on coaching and influence and so on is so important that you need to, again, uh, have your own clear vision and then make sure that that is what you're working towards, and then that is shared with your team. And it is a team, it's not necessarily just a staff, right? And lead from the front and sometimes in the middle, or helping them from the back as well. But I do find that inspiration in the in that messaging. And also, and I think that's the qualities and the that most influential dentists and in the dental community have, right? They do have that clear focus and they make sure it's shared among those that work with them. And I do value that. And also having a daughter of my own, I love your messaging as well as she steps into the career uh, in law, that I really want her to, again, lead and be that inspiration to other women. So, thank you for that. And I think that message needs to continue in the world of, you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. You can do both. Just set your priorities.
Right, I agree. And
Yeah.
speaking of team, it's so important whether you own the practice or you're the associate. It's so important that you develop a team that have the same vision and the same focus that you have and the same goals. And that really comes down to developing a culture in your office. And once a culture is developed, then it just kind of grows and everybody is living this wonderful life together and the patients see it. The patients come in and they say there's something different here, but we know that the culture has been developed in such a way that we want to give the best to the patient, that the patient comes first. But at the same time, we're taking care of each other. I'm taking care of my team members. They're taking care of me. When all that works together, it's a beautiful place to be. And we spend a lot of time together. So being together and being happy together really speaks volume.
Okay, so I have a question on that. So, I always want our listeners to be able to take something away that they can implement if possible, right? And we could talk about how incredible you are all day long, but just on the team aspect, like, give us one secret. How do you build the culture? Because this is the fight everywhere. Like, everybody is so upset because they have to manage their team and all they want to do is do dentistry, or they don't want to have drama. So what's a tip or a takeaway that people can implement right away? Any ideas?
Yes, I do. I think the number one thing is communication. And I will tell you, it goes back to working in the practice and not on the practice. So, team members really can do a lot to influence your practice and really do a lot to help we dentists. So, when I opened my office, I knew very little. I knew dentistry, but I didn't know how to run a practice. But I had really smart team members, and together we developed a culture. But it took us meeting together and talking together and me understanding what their goals were and them understanding what my goals were and understanding what we wanted as a team for our patients. And then we could develop long term goals for the practice. But until we all got together and understood that, there was no way for that to move forward. So, we had, of course, a mission statement. Of course, we had goal setting. We had everything that we needed. But the only way that we could come up with that is as a team. And doctors, I know that you feel like this is your practice and you have a focus for it, and you do, and you should, but you have to let your team members join in because they work with you every day and they see the patients every day. So what that means when I say communication is it means that you do have to set time aside to meet with your team. You do have to have consistent team meetings. And even after 31 years, I still have every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, if you walk into our practice, there's some kind of meeting going on, whether it's leaders meeting, department meetings, all team meetings. There's somebody meeting for some purpose because we have to continuously come together to make sure our goals are still being focused on and the patients are taken care of and the systems are not being missed. We create systems in our office and we get busy and sometimes they get missed and all of a sudden we're not doing things that we set into place. So we have to continually have these meetings to make sure that we're all focused in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a practical side to that, but then I also always think about the psychology side, which is, we all know this, or many of us know the six human needs, and one of those is the predictability piece,
Mhm.
right? And we all have that, and so there's also just that expectation that they know that's going to be there. It's sort of a staple. How much do you think that plays in?
Oh, I think tremendously. Just the team knowing that this continuous type of communications there, that I'm there to listen to them and that they are being heard, it's huge. It's really huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is amazing in dental offices. Again, we've all been in many and seen the most successful ones is just communication. And then those around you as part of the team hearing your enthusiasm, feeling that enthusiasm, and understanding we're all going in the same direction. I think just that alone is so refreshing. It needs to continue to be kind of the core of what everyone does, and not to just assume everyone's in the right frame of mind, right, or in the right space,
Yes.
but to actually feel it, breathe it, leave it, or live it. And yeah, I think that's very important.
One of the funny
Bobby.
things is to have a meeting to meet with your team, you have to shut down production time, right? So all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, every Tuesday I'm going to miss an hour of production time. But I promise you, you will be more productive when everybody's on the same page, living the same culture, the same goals, focusing on the same thing. It just makes things so much more productive when you are in clinical time.
Okay, so I have a question. So it always sounds so good, right? Like, and all of this makes complete sense. I love it. But can you think of a time where you either got pushback from your team, or you just knew somebody was not the right person on the bus, and they were like negative, and they were having the opposite effect when you had those meetings? You know what I mean? Like, and what did you do with that?
Uh,
How did you overcome that?
Oh, great story. So early in my career, I was young and dumb and leaned heavily on my team. And it really got to the point where it was the team versus me, and I could feel it. And it just wasn't a great culture. The culture had just kind of crumbled. And I didn't feel like I had a team that I could rely on. And I just really had just had it. And literally at the end of the day, I said, everybody leave your keys and don't come back. And then I went home and said, oh my God, I fired my whole team today. What am I
What?
going to do? It was the best thing I ever did. I'm telling you, best thing I ever did. And every person that I've hired, they know that story. I'm not beyond just telling everybody
I'm
to go home because I will not live that way again. We will be a team or we will not, but there's no in between. So we're going to come together and we're going to do things the right way. And that means no gossiping. I just don't tolerate gossiping at all. And if you're going to gossip, you're going home, and they know that. I'm very strong on that, and they appreciate that. So I'm strict. I have real strict policies, but I love my team and they love me because we're a team together.
Dr. Bobbi, that is a really inspiring story. I mean, I don't know anyone who would be bold enough to fully do that and risk the practice for a minute while you're trying to scramble and figure. I'm so impressed.
It was a scary moment, but it needed to be done. And lots of times doctors will sacrifice and continue working in a toxic situation because they feel they need to help their patients. But the patients see that toxicity, they feel it, and it's not helping their practice grow. They're not helping their patients. So the sooner you can get rid of the toxicity in your practice and move forward with developing a true culture, the better you are for your patients.
That's an amazing story. I love that because when I hear people talking about overcoming obstacles, sometimes, they don't really take bold, approaches to it. So when you did that, just out of curiosity, I mean, how did you go out and hire everybody so fast? Like, what was the next step?
So
Mike, I don't know if you're curious, but I'm kind of curious. What'd you
No, I'm
do?
very curious. I've never heard this before. So yeah, Dr. Bobbi, I'll be
well,
sitting on the edge of my seat.
after I stopped freaking out because of what I did, I called a girlfriend and I said, "Oh my God, this is what I did." And she said, "Listen, there's this girl. She's getting ready to retire. She's fantastic. But I think if you hired her, she could put a team together for you." And ironically enough, this was at the end of the week, and I was going the next week to the Pinky organization for a whole week. So I was going to be out of town for a whole week. So I called this girl and she said, "Yeah, today's my last day in this office. I'm leaving dentistry. I hate it. I don't ever want to do it again." And I said, "Please, can you just come help me for a week?" And she said, "I really don't want to do it." And so I said, "Okay." And then I talked to my husband and he said, "Call her back and pay her." So I called her back and I said, "Listen, if you do this for me, I'll give you this ungodly amount of money. All I need you is for a week. And if you stay 3 months and help me really put it together, I'll pay you a big bonus." And she said, "Done, I'll do it." And so while I was out of town for a week, she interviewed people. I came back on Monday morning. I met everybody. Uh, she put everything together for me. At the end of 3 months, she said, "I'd like to stay longer." And I said, "Great." And she's still in dentistry today. She was a lifesaver. So here's the funny
Wow.
thing. I only had two patients that made comments about having new team members in my office. You know how patients normally say, "Oh, what happened to Jill?" I had two people that mentioned it, and both of them said negative things like, "I'm glad that girl's gone because she was, not nice." So, but they said it a
Wow.
little bit more blunt. Nobody said, "Oh God, what happened to so and so? I miss her. Why do you have all new team members?" Nobody saw that because the toxicity was
Mhm.
so bad that the patients felt better when strangers came in, a new team came in, and literally we didn't miss a step. We just jumped back in. Team members were great, and we just kept right on going.
Yeah.
Julian, and Julian, what I heard, and this is refreshing as well, is courage. And I'm sure that's something that you teach and really talk about to have courage to step up, not only among team members. And another thing I heard was it's always been is patient, right? It's about the patient. And I believe in that wholeheartedly when I talk and when I was a field rep and did things. It is ultimately all about the patient, Dr. Bobby. So you always coming back to your patients first. All dentists in the dental community need to realize that is everything we do in dentistry is for those patients. You take care of the patients, they'll take care of us, and ultimately they'll be happy. But courage is kind of a word that I is resonating with me. The courage for the one woman to take that leap of faith. Obviously, money helps, right? But the fact that you called her back and kind of that how that transpired. So I think dentists and folks need to really think about that is courage to make that call or courage to say no or courage to start over, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
it is about the patient. And it's so funny because I teach the business of dentistry, and oftentimes dentistry and healthcare as a whole is looked down upon being a business and especially making a profit, right? But here's the thing. A business can't survive without making a profit. And I can't support 25 team members in my office and their families if the business is not making money. So making money is actually a good thing. The other thing about making money in dentistry is it allows me to do free dentistry. And we do a lot of free dentistry in our practice, over $1 million a
Mhm.
year, because there are people that need help that dentistry is just outside their reach. And if I can make their life better with free dentistry, then I'm going to do that. But and I know dentistry is not free. somewhere somebody's got to pay for the supplies, the time, the lights to be on. So if you don't have extra money, if you're not making money in your practice, you can't help your patients. You can't help your team members. So you have to run your business like a business so it can be profitable.
Yeah. So we hear about all these business courses that are happening out there in the industry, right? And there's a lot of people who've never run a dental practice who are teaching those business courses. There are some, dentists who are teaching it, and they probably have never done a great job with their own practice. So what's different when you guys do these courses? How do you keep it fun? You obviously have the background. You've got great stories, so there's no question that you're qualified to be teaching it. But how do people figure out to come to you? What are people buzzing around talking about with your courses in the business world?
Yeah, the business course is a little bit different than other business courses. It's 2 days and it focuses literally on two different focuses. First day is all about team, culture, just what you can do in your practice to make your practice better for your team members and your patient. Day two is all about money, how you can make more money in your practice so that you can help more patients, but also how you can save money by tax deductions. And that's the number one area where I find dentists are like, wait, what do you mean tax deductions? So, the government puts together tax deductions for small businesses. So small businesses can save on taxes. And when we save on taxes as a small business owner, what do? We spend it in the economy. So small business owners are actually helping the economy to flourish. So if we can take advantage of these tax deductions, which are legal tax deductions, the government put them there for our purpose to help the economy, then we're going to feed back into the economy. We're going to buy things, we're going to provide for more team members, we're going to buy more equipment, we're going to help more patients in dentistry. So it's actually a good thing. But that's where I find that dentists are totally lost. They're totally
Mm.
lost on the tax side, the profit side, that's the difference.
That's amazing that you're teaching that. That's incredible. Mike, you've been to a lot of these courses. Are you seeing anybody out there teach this or very
No,
often?
and definitely not dentist teaching. And I do think, colleague to colleague teaching or dentists that have gone through it, one of them saying, hey, we can do it versus, say, a financial planner, someone outside the industry. So, one, I think it's refreshing that dentists are teaching courses in business of dentistry first and foremost. So, that is refreshing. I think it's more powerful. But no, not like what Dr. Bobby's doing now. And I encourage people to again, go learn it. And if you don't want to necessarily do it because you want to just be a clinician, fine. Send one of your team members. I assure you encourage doctors to bring their team
I
members so
do.
everyone is hearing the same thing
Mhm.
and to make sure they go back on Monday or whenever they get back from the practice coming doors, enact it right away
Yes.
because they may
Mhm.
lose that or lose that momentum. So how do you feel about that, Dr. Bobby, about bringing team members to your courses, but also making sure they enact what they learn right away?
I think that's true for all courses, particularly the business course, because if you have a team member there, you don't have to go back and train your team member or implement anything because your team member is going to take over. And if the course does what the course is supposed to do, they're going to have them so excited. They can't wait to get back to the practice to implement everything they learn. So the business course in particular, day one is all about team. And we encourage you to bring your team members, especially your
Mhm.
team leaders to day one. Day two is all about finances, and we have it only for the doctor and the doctor's significant other or spouse because we're talking a lot more intimate numbers. We're talking about team incentives, things like that that they may or may not want their team to know, but I want them to have the luxury of sharing that with their team. But always having a team member there gets more in. The office will jump on board and implement if a team member's in a class.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so I want to switch tracks for a second because you're also, so anytime I talk to you, once in a while you're in the office, you're working, whatever, but it seems like you're on your way to, a lake house or vacation. You always have your children around. And so, when you're making your family first, how do you go about that? Like time ultimately is the issue that everyone talks about, and everybody wants to make their family first,
Yes.
right? Typically,
Yeah.
not everybody, but
Yeah, so you
most.
have to remember the priorities, and so you plan around it. So the family comes first, and then you plan everything else around the family. And sometimes that means families with you at meetings, families traveling with you, even small children. It's funny because it's becoming more and more popular today. It wasn't so popular 30 years ago to travel with your children to dental meetings, but you make a vacation out of it. And, when you're traveling for a dental meeting, that's a business expense. And then you're bringing your family with you. Well, you're working at a vacation that's paid for by your business. That's a great thing, but you always work
Mhm.
around it. The other thing is, because my children grew up in the practice, I had them constantly doing chores in the practice. So from age 6, my children were involved. They were shredding papers, they were filing things, they were sweeping floors, they were always doing something in the practice. So from age 6, they got a paycheck, which means from age 6, they got a Roth IRA. And that's huge for a child once they're in their 20s, that they have an IRA that started back when they were age 6. And all that's legal. So, making it a family event, making it a family practice. So now 30 years later, my 4 children are grown, and 2 of our 4 children work within the practice and within dentistry, not as dentists, unfortunately, but they're still involved because we've made it a family affair. Everything we did in dentistry always involved family.
Wow. Okay. So I know we don't have a ton of time, but you are working on some other things. I don't know how much you're willing to share some of the stuff outside of dentistry, but it's not like you stop in one area of your life. You are an influencer. You're doing things that are personal passion projects and also challenging yourself. And are you open to sharing with our listeners anything that you're working on outside of all of the, the
Sure.
typical stuff that we might hear about? Because I know there's challenges, right, with how people look at you when you're supposed to be this one thing, but it's not really who you are. You're many things, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
you're not your job.
So one of the things I did back in my 30s is I wrote a bucket list of things that I wanted to do before I died. And I just threw all kind of crazy wild ideas on there. But I love being active. I love having a life outside of dentistry. So uh, back in my 40s, I pulled that out and I started looking at it and I started saying, okay, what can I do that takes me outside of dentistry? Because you guys know dentistry can be really stressful, and if you're not careful, it will consume your life. And I needed something that I could do for me. And so the first thing that I saw on this bucket list that I could do was get my pilot's license. And so I thought, I'm going to do this. And so I started taking flight lessons. I got my pilot's license. I love it. I have a small airplane now. I fly all the time. I'm going to fly tomorrow. And it's just a way for me to be up in the sky, and it's just me and God. It's my way to get away. I can go to the airport, get my airplane, and say, where do I want to go today? I can go to the beach and get some seafood. I can fly up to Washington, D.C., or, down to Miami. I can go anywhere because I have that ability. So it's a great thing. A few other things that were on my list that I'm really proud of is that I did an Ironman competition, which when I decided to do it, I did it when I was turning 50. And I did it because I was turning 50 and I was like, I will not die and have something left on my bucket list. And if I don't do it now, I may not be able to do it. So I trained really hard and I did the Louisville Ironman and completed it. And I was really happy about that. And so now the thing that
Wow.
I'm working on is a bikini fitness competition, which I will tell you in your 50s is not an easy thing for a female to do, but it's on that bucket list. And I'm not going to die with anything left on that bucket list. So I encourage all doctors, and I talk about it in my business course. I encourage all doctors to have a bucket list of things that you want to do, places you want to travel, just things you want to experience in life, and stay focused on that. Because if you don't, your practice will consume you, and you'll wake up one day and you'll wonder where the years went and why didn't I do more. So having a life outside of dentistry and just really being able to absorb life to the fullest, I think is really great. And I think dentistry does a great job of allowing us to be able to do that.
Okay, so I'm so amazed by you right now. Okay, so you're going to be in a bikini competition. Okay.
I am.
All of our listeners are like, wait, where's the video version of this? you but let me ask you, and you've got a plane. And so you're an influencer. So you post some of this stuff, and what do people say? Like, do you get judgment? Do you get judged?
I get a lot of judgment. I do. My goal, so I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning. So my goal from this point moving forward is to give back, to influence other people, to help them see how great life is as a dentist, and really encourage younger people to go into dentistry because I love it so much. And so everything that I may post on social media about my family, about my airplane, about my travel, is all because I'm so passionate about it and I want to influence others about the beauty of the life as a dentist, not my life, but just dentistry as a whole. So I want to influence them to, want to do more, to want to achieve more. And if they see me as a pilot and they say, oh my God, I always wanted to be a pilot. And now she's a pilot, maybe I could do it too. Then I think that's a win. But there are people who feel like that's boastful and that I shouldn't be posting that. And that's okay. I mean, that's fine. But social media, especially, is for social reasons. And I've developed a lot of friends on social media because I am a pilot. I have other pilot friends, and because I have done an Ironman and I have now triathlete friends. So I think when you post your life and you're vulnerable enough to share your life, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love
I
that.
agree. I agree with you, Dr. Stanley. And again, that's making me think of kind of my bucket list and some things to write on. So thank you for inspiring me to do that as well. And I think more positiveness in dentistry and in the world itself, right? And that's why Julian and I discuss this podcast and dental with influential dentists, and not only about being influential but being positive, doing the right things in dentistry for the right reasons, right? And we need more of that collectively, not only in dentistry but obviously in the world we live in. So I applaud you, and that is inspirational in itself. I did have one question. I know we have a few more before we wrap up, but you obviously had to have had some mentors or had some influential people in your life or influential companies or things. But what kind of shaped you and kind of your thoughts to be influential, to step outside the box, to lead from the front? I'm curious about that.
So, first of all, let me tell you, I tell every young person that they need mentors. And it's funny because in dentistry we tend to have egos where we feel like that we're above it all, and you can never be above it all because there's so much more to learn. So reaching out to people and asking their guidance and asking for their influence in your life, in your career, is a great thing. And obviously, I always tell young people that Dr. Rob and I are always available for them because we want to influence them and inspire them to be all that they can be. So having mentors is an amazing thing. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Well, do you have anyone in specific, if you want to bring a name or meant like whether it's in dental school currently, just some people either in the business or outside the business that have influenced you, I
Oh
guess.
gosh, yes. I have lots of mentors. So early on, and even now, the many people within the Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry have been influential in my life. Dr. Betsy Bateman is one that comes to mind right away, and Joyce Bassett, really strong women in the industry who are very humble. Deborah Gray King down in Atlanta is also one. Really great cosmetic dentist, but always available to hold your hand and guide you if you needed. Of course, Dr. John Coyce is a mentor for so many dentists. Um, there's just been so many, and even dentists in the community. When I first came in the community, I think I was the number 7th dentist. Now there's like 250 in our community, but of the ones that were here, they all welcomed me, held my hand. If you need anything at all, let me know. And that's how dentistry should be. You should be able to lean on people to guide you. So I would say, especially those 3 women have been really powerful throughout my whole career. And the funny thing is, early on, you look at these women and you're like, oh gosh, they're such powerful, strong women. And, you're so intimidated to even say hello at meetings. And then once you get to know them, you realize that their goals and aspirations are for you the same way that I'm saying my goals and aspirations are for young dentists. They want to see you succeed because they want to see dentistry succeed. So don't ever be intimidated to walk up to someone and ask for, their guidance, or if they can mentor you, or if you could have a phone call, anything like that. Because I find in dentistry that the people who are influential, the people who are successful, are the people who are willing to give back.
Yeah, I love that. So when we started really collaborating with ADI, or American Dental Institute, on the podcast, they're the ones who came to us and said, "Would you guys co-host this podcast?" And we were talking about what is our goal with this podcast, right? And I think we all agreed we just wanted to elevate other people, right? That so take and help lift people up, and I see you guys doing that. You really are some a couple of the most humble people, you and Dr. Robert as well, and it's really inspiring to see how you really hold space for other people. You're genuine. I'm so happy that you came on the show today. But if you could leave some more, like last piece of advice or wisdom, wherever, for whatever comes to mind with the listeners, what might that be?
As a dentist, I think that if we stay focused in the right area, which is taking care of our patient and taking care of our team members, everything else works out. And I see sometimes young dentists and even older seasoned dentists who are so focused on, I have to be successful, I have to be influential, I have to make money. And if those are your focus, it's harder to take care of the patient and harder to take care of your team members. So just stay focused on the right things and all of those other things just work out. It always comes together.
Mm.
There have been times, and the economy hasn't always been what it can be over the last 31 years. And there have been times where I was like, how am I going to pay payroll? But I'm never going to
Mhm.
go in and tell a patient that they need something they don't need just because I need the money. And it always works out, always. So just do the right thing, stay focused on taking care of your team, stay focused on taking care of your patient, and everything works out great.
I love that. I think that's really incredible advice. We're always saying, make sure that, you're solving people's problems, right? And that you're not just solving for your money.
Right, that's
And
right.
solve people's problems and then the money will
The
come.
money comes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
just,
one
it's
last
so
thing that I
amazing.
would say is just
Yeah.
don't get so focused on dentistry that you lose track of life. Dentistry provides
Mhm.
us a great life, but dentistry is not necessarily our life. So make sure that you stay focused on life, which means family and taking care of yourself.
So, Dr. Bobbi, it's about enjoying the journey, not waiting till the end of the journey when you may or may not be able to enjoy it, right? I
I
mean,
love
we work
that.
so hard.
I love that. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's do this. Let's make sure. First of all, we're probably going to have you back on the show at some point
I would love
because
it.
we want to know about the bikini competition, and how that turns out. And also, I would love for people to be able to reach you. And so, how can they find you? What's
Yeah.
your social media handle and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I love it when people reach out to me. I'm on Instagram. I'm the Smile Diva on Instagram. Or they can
Such a
email
great
me.
handle.
It's Dr. Bobby, DRBOBBI at StanleyInstitute.com. So either way works for me. And I love just being in touch with other dentists.
Yeah, I love it, and it's so much fun seeing your feed. So for what it's worth, if anybody is not following her, make sure you follow her.
Thank you.
I can be reached at Spelling It. And Michael, are you promoting your Instagram yet? We're gonna get you up to speed here soon.
Perfect. No, we're good. Just see me, reach out to me at one of the dental shows, and Dr. Stanley, look forward to seeing you out and about in the community and attending one of your courses as well, and look forward to our next chat. So again, very much thank you for being on the program, and really did enjoy our conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and a massive gratitude to our listeners, because without listeners, what's the point of the podcast, right? And so, and to American Dental Institute for being the sponsors and creators of this show. So, thank you again for being here today. We appreciate you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.